Hi and welcome to this week's Background Fundamentals. A while ago we did a piece in Background Fundamentals on FaceShift, which is a real-time tracking program that allows real-time puppeteering of CG models. Well, that was bought by Apple and has gone dark, though we hear good things perhaps brewing over there. But they're not the only company that's looking at doing face tracking. Interestingly, Adobe is doing face tracking and have already released a kind of free beta of software that uses that. Now, in their case, they're using it to drive cartoon, simple animated kind of figures. And so in a moment, we're going to look at that program called Character. Now, if you have After Effects, it's actually a free download, and I'll go into that later. And I'll show you how to build a cartoon character yourself that is driven by your own webcam in your laptop or in your screen. But before that, I also wanted to flag another little bit of software that I just kind of ran across because I was looking at this idea of face tracking, and even if you go sort of earlier in the chain, so if you like, you've got the FaceShift stuff that uses an RGBD camera, which is a depth camera that's getting really great results for full 3D puppeteering. In front of that is, I'm going to say, Character, which is just using an RGB webcam in your screen. But before even that, you can in fact do kind of lip sync cartoon animation just based off the audio waveform patterns that you have of any recorded clip. And so there's a great piece of software called Go Animate, which allows you to produce presentations or whatever. In fact, I've had people actually make entire previses of video pieces they wanted to put together using this software, though, as you'll see, it's not really designed for that. But I guess if you're doing a stand-up narration like I am now, it could be used. Anyway, that just uses an audio clip and does lip sync on cartoon characters. So let's have a look at Go Animate and then move over to the main attraction, which is Character by Adobe. And that's using version 3 of the software. So it shipped, I'm going to say, about 6 months ago with version 1, which was okay, but not really widely grabbed. Version 2 was considerably better, and I was using that. And now version 3 has just come out, and it's definitely worth a look, and it's getting more and more advanced as it goes along. So hopefully this points to some really interesting stuff coming from Adobe. And who knows, FaceShift may re-emerge as some amazingly interesting product out of Apple. But for the time being, we're just going to have to sort of contain ourselves to this world of cartoon faces.
Okay, well, let me show you Go Animate. So this is a tool that just lets you basically produce animations and videos, and they can be graphical animations. They can be things that are like, just sort of design elements of things that fly in. They can actually get quite elaborate, and you can produce these animations and vary them as much as you want. If I hit preview on this one, for example, it'll render that last shot, and you'll get an idea of what's going on. With the characters, though, at this stage we don't have any lip sync or anything. We've just got characters coming in and doing stuff, and we've got some graphics coming up, people jumping in and doing stuff, sliding in, the sort of things that you might want to do to illustrate a point. And all of these different characters are pre-made and able to be varied and done. So let's show you how you might do that. So if I picked on any one of these characters, take this guy for example, I can actually change his actions really easily by just selecting from the actions here, and that can be as daft or as as simple as we like. But more to the point, if I have him just doing something, standing here doing whatever we want, I can also just change him, so he can be changed if we want to. So I can swap the asset. Swapping the asset would mean I could pick a different character altogether. Now, sometimes that's primarily a wardrobe change, but it can be, let's say we go to, I don't know, jobs and workplaces. Okay, so I could pick anything I wanted here. There's gazillions of character options available. And whichever one of these I pick, it's going to basically have the current action. So I've got a character and an action. This character puts a hand on a hip. This character is doing whatever we just last set him up to do. And they can be sitting or doing whatever we want. And those poses are all what's coming out of the actions that they're doing. They could also be happy actions or confused actions or whatever we want. Sometimes they're, things that make sense given that they're character, and sometimes they're just sort of more static poses that are just frozen in space. So we have characters and we have poses, and in any individual character we can set up dialogue. So let's start up a whole new scene and see where we go. So I'm going to add a scene on the end here. And at the moment, it just gives me the default of what I had previously. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to use the standard kind of setup. So let's use this guy here. And we don't need to do anything else than that. We've just got the guy at the moment. And we've got some title. So let's change the title. So this is obviously designed for doing simple kind of, almost PowerPoint type level videos. But it does, it is able to be used to mock stuff up. And I've actually had people that have actually used this to block out a film, like a short film or a sort of corporate-y type film. Okay, so the background color, I'm going to change that to something closer to FXPHD colors when I can. There we go. And actually, I want to put that a bit darker. There we go. Okay, so now I've got my guy. I want to change him to be some other guy, so let's find some guy we want. If we go to jobs and work, we might find a suitable character. This guy looks probably good. There we go. Okay. And I want this guy to lip sync. Okay, so once I've got the character set up, I need to have an action for him, and that action has to do with his lip sync. The thing about this is that the characters can have actions set up on them to bring them into the shot and stuff. At the moment, this guy has a current action which is moving. So let me just start all over and get rid of him. So I want to not have anything that's inherited from what we've got. So let me just bring in a fresh guy that doesn't have any pre-existing setup, so we can start from scratch. Otherwise, we're going to have him kind of flying in. Okay, so here's this guy. Okay, so that's our basic guy. I can scale him up because it's vector graphics. He looks like he's a kind of a stockbroker guy, and then I can give him any particular action and stuff I want. At the moment, he's got an automatic face. At the bottom here, I can set up an expression. So, for example, I could set up, let's make him happy. There we go. And he's happy 3/4 view. I could also make him surprise 3/4 view. But what I probably want to do is give him an emotion where he's facing the camera. So give him facing the camera happy. Okay. Now I need to give him some dialogue, and I could record something with the microphone, but I'm obviously talking, so what I'm going to do is just upload a file. And I have a file obviously set to go here. And so what's going to happen now is that if you look at the timeline below add the voice, we've actually got a timeline voice down here now. So this is different than what's happened before, because these ones were all mute. If we take this one, I think I can do a preview from here. Okay, and what's going to happen now is we're going to preview from this point in the setup, and it'll take the file and use that to feed in for lip sync. Hi, well this is me testing Go Animate. So this is the automatic lip sync of me just recording the audio and feeding it into Go Animate. Okay, so it's that simple. Let's go back to the editing again. So if I want to, the voice here is just sort of opening and closing to show that he is moving. And of course, anything that we want to do there, we can change. So I might get him to be sitting in a seat. It's kind of look kind of cooler. Let's put him over here. I need a prop. So let's get something. Let's get out of here and get some props. I'm sure there's some chairs. If I search for chairs. There we go, chairs. What's a chair with his nicks? Like he would be in a kind of corporate-y chair. That'll do. Actually, that'll do. Okay, so position our chair. And obviously what I need to do is move that back. So there he goes. Probably make him a bit bigger. Okay, and again, everything is completely possible to be changed. If I didn't like the character, at any stage I can swap him out and make him be anyone else I want to be. So let's make him, well, I guess it's my voice, right? So it's going to look a bit weird if he's in combat fatigues, but why not, eh? There we go. Okay, and again, if we do that and a preview on that now, we'll get him saying the same line as we saw a moment ago. Hi, well this is me testing Go Animate. So this is the automatic lip sync of me just recording the audio and feeding it into Go Animate. Okay, now there's a lot more you can do on that. If you pick up any particular scene, for example, you might notice this camera in the corner. That's because in this particular shot, I set up a like a compositional zoom in. So you can do that. This is the in and out point, and so basically it actually tracks in on this as it goes. So if we watch a preview of that, and we can add as many characters to this as we want. We can do whatever we want. It's very, very flexible. You can add cars and other things. But at the end of the day, the characters are going to be basically just doing these kind of posed actions and nothing else. And so while I can set up move-ins and pans around and make characters walk in and out of shot, their expressions are not that nuanced, of course. And if, at the end of the day, you're just basically puppeteering some pre-made flash animations effectively. So that's great. And if you want to do stuff, as I say, it's very impactful to be able to produce stuff for presentations. I totally recommend it. And there's a bunch of other charts and things that you can do, and tons of pre-made up layouts. And this is all, as I say, I've been in the business friendly one. There's a whole different set of stuff that you can do when you're using like a chalkboard kind of thing, where you have a completely different look and a different style. And I'm sure there are other ones that are going to be sold and brought in. Again, I'm not suggesting that this is like a big serious tool, but it's just I want to touch on the idea of this automatic lip sync, just taking a sound file, because after all that we're dealing with here is basically a sound file that the program is having to deal with. So it doesn't have basically much to deal with if you think about it. It's just got the simple MP3 file coming in, and that MP3 file is effectively this, right? It's just a series of wavelengths, and so it's basically trying to work out from this where the mouth should move up and down. And on a cartoon character, that actually is relatively easy. It's not that hard to do. Well, while you can't design your own characters here, you can certainly pick from a large library. You can, in fact, design your own character and go a lot more detailed in matching it. And instead of just going off an audio file, we can, in fact, use the new Adobe character to actually get ourselves face-tracked animation that's not only trying to work out stuff from what this can do, but also actually tracking and mapping my face to feed it in, so that the actual lip sync that it's deriving from me, in other words, the tracking from me, would be feeding the cartoon character. As I say, this one's just being fed by that audio file. What I want to do is actually have it track my eyes, my mouth, and wherever my head moves, my mouth moves. And so to do that, I'm going to use the new Adobe character. Okay, so this is the Adobe character. So this character here is being driven by me in the top corner. So in fact, I'm doing this at the moment with my glasses off, but I can put my glasses on. I've got ones that have not much rim, so you can still see that my eyebrows are being red and a whole lot of other stuff. Now, the really important thing is this thing called set rest pose. So at various times I may forget to press this, but the reason why that's really important is this. It's tracking my eyes, and I'm looking where I'm looking on the screen, and I want that to be accurate. So for example, let me just roll my eyes around for a second. As you can see, I have quite a lot of tracking going on in my eyes. So what's my rest position? What I want to be is looking at the character here, and then hit the set rest position up here. And that means that when I do that, I basically get my eyes looking here. If I have my set rest position when I'm looking up at myself in the top corner, for the rest of the time that I'm looking, I'm going to be seeming like I'm staring off the screen slightly. Okay, so this is doing the voice from the tracking of my mouth. It's also tracking my head for moving it round, and it should be doing a little bit of forward and backward rocking. And a lot of those properties are controlled here in this property setup. And I'll come to that in a second. I just want to show you a couple of different characters. This one is, and by the way that this works is that you get Adobe character with After Effects, but you have to kind of look for it. It's free, but it's this is the third version of the test stuff, and I've been playing with it for a few versions now. Okay, so I'm changing the scene to a snowman, and again, you can see that it's tracking here. Let me just set my set my rest pose. Okay, so now I'm looking at it, and you can see it's still controlling my eyebrows and everything, but the difference here is I have things like hand control. So I'm now with my cursor causing the hands to go up. Now, if I let that go right now, it just stays there. And that's because I have hand here on the dragger set to hold in place. If I change that back to return to rest position, then when I bring his hand up and get him to do something and let go, it drops back down. Now, what's really interesting about this, the way that Adobe set it up, is you can see it's actually on a lattice. So it's actually stretching like a rubber mat. And so what you get is both primary motion and then a little bit of secondary motion through what's going through the middle. The other thing that's really interesting is dangling things. So let's see if I think it's Julie who has hair that's dangling. And this is working off gravity. So you can see as I rock my head from side to side, there is real secondary motion on her hair. That could be a pendant, could be any number of things. The initial versions of the characters that they shipped with Adobe Character were appallingly bad, in my opinion. I'll show you one in a second. But they just were like highly artistic Aztec type characters, and you just didn't get any sense of anything. By the way, I'm looking at this at 100% at the moment. If I hold Control down, I can Option down, I can slide around this, and I just go to Fit, and you can see where she is. And so I can do the same thing here with the arms. She can raise up her hand, and if I let go, it's going to stay there because the dragging element is set to hold in place, return to rest, and then when we do the hand thing, I let go, it's going to come back down to where it was. And you can see the lip sync is here. Now the face, and this is kind of interesting, let's go back to 100% so we can really see what a face is doing. Okay, the face on the characters has various controls. So you can see here that head scale strength is set to 25%, mouth strength is set to 0%. And so all of these are parameters so that you can tweak what you're getting out of the character based on what you're doing. So let's try another one. And what's really interesting about this from my point of view is that the characters are not only able to be animated around and moved and done and stuff, but you can make these characters yourself. And so in the user interface, if we just jump into the user interface for a second, the way this is set up is that we have puppets that have been brought in, and I'll show you how to make one of those in a second. I've made my own one. And then we have scenes, which are recordable scenes. Now I could be recording the stuff down here, down the bottom, and if I did record what was going on down the bottom, I'd be able to interact and do stuff with it, in fact, edit it. And I'm just checking one of these scenes here has, oh, the blank, here we go. So this guy's kind of fun, and he's cartoony, and I think he's, really interesting. You can see that to do that, we'd actually have to rig a character. And so what are we on here? Cameron. So if I look at Cameron's character up here, oops, sorry, and change the character rigging up here, you can see that the rigs can be quite simple or quite elaborate. But when we get to setting them up, we can actually set them up with kind of like a bone structure on the actual character itself. So let's find one that has a bone structure. This one here, and so this guy actually has a bone rigged structure that you can set up. Now I'm not really so interested in this stuff, I'm interested in the face. So how are we actually doing this and how's it all working? Well, there are examples here that we can use that can give us an idea. This is the advanced new user interface available in version 3. As I said, preview 3 of Character Animator that loves you is the version that has this new feature. So if you've downloaded an earlier version of After Effects and therefore got an earlier version of Character Animator, preview 1 or 2, it won't have this blending. And what the blending allows us to do is we can record stuff that's going on. Let me just play this for you and you'll see what's going on. And then we can move between things. So if you've got a take where the head is down, the head is up, head is down kind of thing, you can blend between different takes. Let's just play this. Okay, so that's quite a useful tool. Obviously, it's very simple in a kind of a Maya animation sense, but don't forget this is live puppeteering, which is kind of fun, right? Not only that, but being able to make these characters is actually remarkably easy because Adobe set it up to work off either Photoshop or Illustrator. So let's just back up. Now we've seen what it can kind of do and work out how we put these things together. So firstly, getting the software. It's free. Download it with the current version of After Effects. You may need to go into After Effects and in the After Effects menu actually select Character Animator, and that will then launch it as a separate program, or you can find it, depending whether you're a Mac or PC, where your applications are kept. Okay, and then we need then two things. We need a model that's like this and the components of it. Now I choose to do this in a combination of Photoshop and Illustrator. So let me just get up Photoshop first and foremost and show you how that works. Okay, so this is Frida, which was the original puppet that was provided in Character, and I just think this put a lot of people off because even though you can do quite a lot with it technically, it just was quite, harsh on the eye, and it didn't kind of appeal to people. The new versions are terrific. And when I say they provide this Photoshop file so that you can understand and use it as a kind of template to put stuff together. Let's just work on the face for a second. So if we zoom in on the face here, we'll see that we have a head. Okay, well that's pretty simple. And there are various points that we can use, like origin points and anchor points, but I'm gonna going to just sort of stay past that for a second and just look at what's going on. We've got left eye, right eye going on here, and a nose and a mouth. And so if we look at the mouth for a second, you'll notice that the mouth has all of these different things for lip syncing. Now at the moment they're all turned on, so it makes it really hard to see. So let me just turn them all off. And you can see that we're going to get back to what's needed. Okay, so we have a neutral. If we turn the neutral off, we have a smile. Turn the smile off, we have surprised. And so it goes, right? Each of these being a different one. Now it's very important that you label these and use these in exactly the same format as they've set up here, so you can see what's going on. However, I find this quite off-putting because it just doesn't feel very intuitive to me. The eyes are so stylized and stuff. So I made my own. Okay, so this is the new head. This is me, and it's a little easier to see what's going on. So let's start by looking at the structure of how this is kind of formed up. So what we have on the side is, of course, a structure of the face or the whole head. So let's close this up. So we have a character. It has a head and a body. Now I'm going to keep the body as something that I'm not really doing much to, but it'll be sort of rubber matted to bend with the head. And there are some things you need to do to set some anchor points and an origin. Okay, so now I've got the head. It's basically split into the mouth here, which is going to be most of the action, of course, for the lip sync. But then I have other stuff to do with the eyes. Now the eyes are a little different to the mouth and a little more complicated. So let's start with the mouth and you'll get the idea. So for everything I want, I need to have a base and then sit on top of it a smile or any of the other expressions that I choose to add up. And so what you need to do is go through this list and for your character make up each of those mouth expressions. And then you load it up in a Photoshop document, each layer sitting one on top of the other inside this area. It doesn't matter which one's switched on, it just matters that they're labeled correctly and sit in the right hierarchy. And so some of these are made quicker than others, but then I don't expect them to be on screen for very long. They're just passing sort of phonemes that will be processed on the way. The big ones, of course, is the neutral and the smile, and they're going to be the ones that I really focus on a lot and that you see a lot. Okay, so each one of these just gets turned off and on depending on what's being processed by the image tracking software of my face. It tracks my mouth and listens to the sounds that I'm recording and putting in the file. So that's easy, one on or off, and you might duplicate some of these, right? You might say that two particular expressions are similar and you just use the same one. That's up to you. But you should include those in that file. Now the eyes are different. Now at the moment I don't have angry eyebrows, and so I'll create some of those in a couple of seconds in Illustrator and bring them over. But let's just look at the eyes. So the mouth is separate. It's like just switched in and out. The eyebrows are separate, but the eyes, are a bit different because the eyes actually work in a layered file. So at the moment we have the eyes, and the key here is that the pupil is going to be moved and animated separately, but underneath the eye alpha. And so what I can do is move those because I want to with eye tracking and keep on top of it kind of still there. So let's, unlike the eyebrows, which I'm going to turn off and on, the eye pupil itself actually moves. So if I, oops, sorry, it's the mouth. Sorry, select the right layer. Here we go, the pupil. In the program, of course, it'll move the left and the right eye like this underneath that alpha. So I need a complete pupil, a complete disc, if you like, that gets revealed depending on where the eye is moving. So that's quite different from what we're doing with the mouth. So I can see all of it no matter where it goes on the image. So to do that, I create a layered file. It's called left eye, and I actually have in it this idea of an alpha which has a hole. And so the hole lets me see through to the eye. So the program basically draws the white, moves this pupil, and then has the alpha over the top, which of course just completes the problem. So I don't have to worry about producing every eye animation for every eye graphic for every eye position. It just does it. The blink is different. The blink is laid over the top in my case because that's what I wanted. And it just slams down on top of everything else that's there. And so the blink, again, only there for a moment normally, and I've decided to not even make it a fully closed blink. So it just comes on and comes off, and so it sits on top of everything else. It looks like, of course, that we're still seeing the pupil underneath a little bit. And that's just an illusion that I choose to go with. And of course, each eye is going to be working in sync when it's actually being tracked and animated by the program. But here we don't have to worry, we just sort of set them up one after the other. Okay, so that gives me, like the hair, for example. I could have done an extra thing with the hair. All of these actual sort of things are defined by Adobe. So if you want to set up extra items, you can and place them in this hierarchy. And also, if you want to do more than I'm talking about, you can. If, however, something doesn't show up, It might be because you've got the wrong order or the wrong naming or the wrong hierarchy here. So between version 1.2 and 1.3 that I'm on now, for example, positions changed on where we had the face. So make sure you have things and use a template and just use this sort of file, just like this, one that works already, just to copy and paste over the top of, so you get what you want happening. If, however, you make a mistake and you have, like, say, 2 of something, or, for example, you've got the face in the wrong level, you might get it not appearing in the cartoon program, or it could be flickering. So if it's flickering or it doesn't appear, it's probably a naming convention in Photoshop or Illustrator, and you should do that. Anyway, let's turn these eyebrows off and go and have a look at how we might add those in Illustrator and then bring them back in. Okay, so this is Illustrator, and what I want to do, of course, is edit in Illustrator. So what I need to be able to do is get rid of those eyebrows that I don't want. So these ones are the ones that are gone. And actually what I'm going to do is just set up a, I'm going to move one over here for a second. I'm just going to set up a stroke that is that color, because I think I can just do those really quickly then. So let's get that stroke being that kind of color. There we go. Okay. So I don't want this guy anymore. And I don't want to fill. And now I can just draw my angry eyebrows, right? So in my case, actually, let's do that a bit better. Okay, so now I'm happy with the angry eyebrows. Just to make life easier for myself in Photoshop, I'm actually going to get rid of these eyes because I don't want them to be needed to be selected, because I want to be able to just get them, just the eyebrows themselves. Just quickly get rid of that. I could have grouped all these anyway. There we go. So now I've got rid of the actual eyebrows. Okay, so that's all I want. I just want this kind of, I don't want that darkness there. I just want that frown bit there, and I'm just going to save that out as, in my case, the eyebrows. So that's angry. I think it was, wasn't it? And let's go back into Photoshop. Okay, so now I've loaded up my guy again in Photoshop, and I want to bring in my Illustrator file. So I'll just open that up in Photoshop. I could do smart objects and all sorts of things, but I just can't be bothered. So here's my eyebrows. Grab that guy. And now that's on the left, but it's actually the right eyebrow. So let's get to turn off the eyebrows that are there. So we don't want that eyebrow, and we don't want that eyebrow. But I do want to paste into the right eyebrow because it's my right, not camera right, if that makes sense. Okay, so it's obviously a bit big, but we can scale it down like I want. And because these are all just objects, I can just do that. Okay, and then I need to get my left one, which is this guy, and bring him in. And I'll do the same thing. Make me look angry. And you'll see why I wasn't too fussed about exactly where things lined up in the previous one. Okay, so now I've got angry eyebrows. So now if I change that, I've got both, and I don't want both. Obviously, I just want one or the other. The reason I went a little darker here is just because I guess, you know, look a bit cool. I guess I could tweak it in color if I wanted to make them exactly the same. But the one of the things that I was counting on is that I could actually still vary the fill on this a bit, so I can get it to come down so it matches up more with the same kind of color, because they won't obviously be on screen at the same time. So let's get that set up. It's about what I want there, and I'll just do the same thing to the other one, and we're ready to go. Okay, so I've got that the way I want it. So what I can do now is just save that out. And once I've saved that file out in this format, I'm good to go. So let's get rid of that and just open up character. So I don't even need to have this file active. I don't need angry, so that's good. Okay, so if you remember, we were here with this character that was set up before. So what I need to do now is load in my one, so I can do that. And when I load in my version of this character, it'll update to the PSD file. So if I've updated the Photoshop file, it'll update this file, which of course it's just done. So let me set my rest pose. So now my eyes are looking in the right place. Let's see if I take my glasses off for that. Just reading with my eyes. And of course now I'm speaking with most of the correct language, and I can go up and down or up. Now of course my body is just being effectively rubber matted as it goes around, which is good. If you want to do something like this, you want to create a new pose, one of the things I recommend is working on the mouth. Mine's a bit extreme here at the moment, but one of the things you can do to help that is just grab a photo program of yourself and just, pick whichever pose it is. So if you wanted to do like F or M or whatever it is, ooh, just, ooh. And then you've got that to sort of guide yourself, and then you can take that into Photoshop and you can take that into Photoshop and you can use that as a guide to make up the animated version of yourself. And this is, of course, now being completely live puppeteered. I could, of course, record this. And one of the really great things you can do is you can record at slow speed. So if we set the record rate down to half and hit record, now I can make sure that I get really accurately what I want. And then of course I can play that back at normal speed if I want. And this is obviously a good way to set up and to check things. It's a bit hard if you're doing performance, of course, but if you're trying to get an exact action going, that's good. At the moment my mouth seems to be jiggling up and down quite a lot relative to my head. Now there are properties, of course, that we can play with on the character, so that we can in fact change things. We can also change the record specifications and the other properties over here, or the camera and mic stuff. What we want to do probably is just play with the puppet's elasticity and properties. So if we look at that, the face here, for example, head position, strength, I could decrease these. Let's do scale, head scale down a bit, and eye gaze strength down a bit, and yeah. And so what we can do is basically tone down the movements that happen from what I'm doing, basically as that feeds into my puppet down here, and just adjust those strengths. Okay, so if we go now to one of the earlier ones, and I wanted to show you that in fact there's more that we can do than just that. So if we load up one of these other characters, we actually have the ability to do key button strokes as well as head turns. If you notice in this character, if I just work for a second on 1 to 5, I'm pressing character 1. Watch his nose, he's looking more towards us. And 2, 3, 4, 5. And so he's looking basically around and it looks like he's got a bit of a head turn. And so that's just basically signaling new things that you can do. You can also add extra props and do extra things like make their hands change, and in fact give them extra things. So in fact there's a little gadget on this wrist that he's got, and if I open up one of the other characters, let's take this guy, sorry, let's take Seth, I think it is, and have a look at his setup. Okay, so what's happening on this character is that, oh, that's not Seth. There we go. On this guy here, we've got the same thing, but now we've just got more rigged up to his hands. So we've got the hands things before, as you saw, but in fact we can additionally add things that are toggled on or toggled off. And in fact in this guy we can give him a cigarette if we wanted to, have him a smoker, or make him a waiter, and he can carry things around. And remember that hand on this side is up because I have it set over here that it's on hold in place. And so if I was to change hold in place to make it return to rest, and also this guy return to rest, then as I gave him the platter of food or whatever, or anything else that was going on, let's see, there we go, he'd be here, and if I let go it would drop back down again. Okay, so that's doing that. So we can basically add in extra stuff and pull stuff out. And if we actually look at his file here, you'll see those objects are all there, and we can look at those objects. You've got dinner here, turn dimmer off and on, up at the preview level. So those are all of the elements. And it doesn't matter whether they're on or off here, they're going to get accessed basically by the program, and it's going to work out what to turn off and on. And I think that's a point I didn't really make before. It doesn't really matter how you leave the PSD file. It's going to, as long as it's got the right naming structure, it's going to be fine. There are some differences between version 2 and version 3, so if you bring in a version 2 file and it doesn't work, I'd recommend you go with these new version 3 files. These are demo files. I'll give you the URL that you can download them, and then you can play with them to your heart's content. There are all sorts of things that you can do with this, and this is, as I say, only beta 3 or alpha 3, so it'll be interesting to see where Adobe takes this in time. But it's definitely improving a lot. It's still got a few bugs. It's still not quite where I reckon it should be, but it's certainly a lot better than it was, and it's already being able to produce some interesting results, and it's obviously a lot more dynamic. I could imagine someone clearly doing some kind of project in this, as well as just doing some cool, fun demo stuff. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks so much for being with us. Until next time, I'm Mike Seymour. See ya.